Okay, here I am at the step where I have painted the cup black, and it has the blue painter's tape over the geode portion. And so it's just now it's got the white base paint on it on the outside, within the black, flat matte black on the outside. And I'm going to do the hydro dip. I breezed through this real quick in the tutorial because I assumed most people know how to hydro dip, but I'm making this video so that if you don't know how to hydro dip, you can just watch here. And I'm actually going to do this process because this is the cup in the video that you saw that was just plain white with one layer of epoxy. And now I'm going to do the hydro dip on it. So it's got the black. This is not epoxied over, it's just black, flat matte black. So I'm going to start with the first color that I showed you. It's kind of the silver that's not as shiny. I put, when I do my spray paints, I line them up, shake them, take the caps off, and lay the cap next to it. So that way I can tell which paint color I'm using. I don't get them confused and end up putting too much of one color I don't want. So this is going to be the silver, the most basic silver that's not as shiny. And I cover most of the top of the water with this one because I want this to be my predominant color. Then I'm going to do the very, very metallic silver. It was the one with this super shiny cap. It's going to be very, very metallic. I'm just going to add a little bit in different spots. This is just going to add the extra little bit of glimmer. Then I'm going to do the white. In just different little spots throughout the paint. And my last color is the purple. Now the purple is just going to be a very slight accent color. I don't want too much of it. Quick little bursts, 4 little bursts. And then I take my popsicle stick and I'm going to do a couple swirls through the paint just to get the swirl look for the cup. Then what you want to do is decide, you don't want to get the prettiest part of the swirl on this part because you're going to peel this paint away. You want to get the prettiest part of the swirl here on the back and front. So what I'm going to do is decide where I think the coolest colors are in the bucket. Personally, a little bit of the purple to be really, really vibrant on the cup. And you're going to dip at an angle towards the water and just slowly at an angle. You want to go at an angle because if you go straight down, you'll cause an air bubble, which will mess the whole thing up. You want to do at an angle and just slide it through the paint into the water. Very slow and steady pace. You don't want to go back up and down. You just want to go straight, go down, down, down till you get to the very end. And then you go quick, swirl around, lift up, let the water drain, and then you have your hydro dipped cup. So you'll have, if you don't like, so this one came out, there's a lot of black still showing through, which means there wasn't a lot of paint coverage right there in the paint on the water. So you can re-dip it if you don't like the look. But I actually kind of think that looks cool with the black peeking through. So you can choose to leave it or respray and start over. So this is going to be this, and then you'll see there's extra water droplets. I just go through and blow those off. And get as much of the water off as you can. That way it dries quickly. And then you lay this on your drying rack. And while I still have it in my hand, since I've decided I'm not going to re-dip this, well, maybe I will. So maybe I'll let this dry. No, I actually really like that. So what you do, you take your little fine tweezers and you're going to lift underneath that blue tape and start removing it and peeling it off. You want to do this step before the paint really dries on there, because if it really dries on tight, you're more likely to have the paint that's on the cup lift and peel away with the tape, and you want to avoid that if you can. So see, as you pull the tape, it reveals your geode. You tape it off because you don't want to get the hydro dip paint on top of your geode, especially because it's so 3D'd popping out, and the paint will get stuck in there and you won't be able to get it out. It'll be a very big job. So this way, you're just avoiding getting paint on that geode. And you're leaving it nice and clean so you don't have to go back in and clean it up later. So I'll just keep peeling this away. Almost done. And there you go. And so there is your hydro dipped cup with just a touch of purple to bring out the purple in the geode, and the geode coming out the side of the cup. Came out really cool. So I'm gonna finish out this video and then continue on and show you the next step.
Okay.
Okay, here I am. I'm gonna do a second cup to make sure you guys get all the details that you need. Again, it's covered with the electrical blue painter's tape, and it's just spray painted black. It got set down. My child put it down, and it got a little white, but it won't matter because that will all be covered up. So it's just the black base. And I'm going to use the same colors. I'm going to be covering the whole surface with the lighter silver or the less shiny silver. A few spots with the really bright silver. Moving to the white. This white doesn't like the angle it's being sprayed at. Okay. And then just a little accent of the purple. We don't want a lot. I personally don't want a lot of purple. I want it to look more natural. But I love purple, so I'm adding it to the cup. And then just give it a little swirl. I'm going to add just a touch more of this bright silver in a couple spots. Shake the water a little bit, and I'm going to do the dip at an angle. The whole thing looks amazing, so I'm not going to really worry about which part is going towards the best part of the cup. And I'm just going to slowly dip down at an angle. I'm trying to do this so the camera can see it a little bit better this time. And slide down and down. Swirl, and come on. This gives it a really cool marbling effect. All right, and that is the hydro dip done twice on 2 different cups. So now we have the cups that have been hydro dipped. Again, we had this covered up with the blue painter's tape, peeled it off right after I hydro dipped, but it leaves a pretty harsh line where you peel the paint off. Where you peel the tape off. Sorry, there's paint all over my fingers. And we want to kind of get rid of that. We want to soften that line up before we epoxy it and put our actual coat of epoxy to seal this beautiful hydro dip down. I painted this cup, was painted black before I hydro dipped, and some of the hydro dip didn't cover the black, but I actually ended up really liking it. I was going to redip it, but it looked so cool and it kind of added an effect and it makes it a little more unique from this one. This one didn't have hardly any of the black. It was mostly the grays and the silver. So I liked it. So I actually went ahead and left it. Once it dried, I thought it looked super pretty and came out better than I thought it originally looked when it was wet. So I left it, but what we're gonna do is just soften that line out from where we removed the tape. And how we're gonna do that is we're gonna use alcohol and a lint-free rag. So I have my lint-free rag here and the alcohol. Alcohol is also really good for cleaning the inside of your cups. If you use acetone anywhere on your cup, the epoxy won't stick to it. The acetone will remove the paint really, really well, but the epoxy will not stick to it after that because it repels off the acetone. Even if the acetone is no longer wet, the presence of it was there and the epoxy will release away from it and pull away from it. So you want to use alcohol for these parts. So we've got, just get that nice and wet, hold the cup, and I'm just gonna just rub very gently along that line and soften that edge up. It goes pretty quick, you don't have to rub super hard. And this is just gonna give it a real gentle look, and it'll ease the edge of that line into the rest of the cup. The nice thing about this cup is nothing about it needs to be exactly perfect. It's meant to be kind of rough looking, because it's technically supposed to be a stone. So as you see, I'm going along, and it's revealing some of the black paint underneath and giving it almost like a little lining edge. And that is exactly what we want, and it fades into the silver. And that is exactly what you're attempting to do with just rubbing it just ever so slightly with the alcohol. You don't want to rub too hard because you'll get right back through down to the white base that you originally painted the cups. And you don't want to do that. You just want to hit that black surface, blend it out a little bit, and move on to the next bit. The goal is just to not have a hard line. Okay, and get a little more alcohol. So you can see here, I'm just gently rubbing, and it's exposing that black right along the edge and giving it a very gradual look into the hydro dip from the stone. So I'm an outdoor adventurist and outdoor enthusiast. I'm a rock climber, snowboarder, wakeboarder, dirt biker, anything, dune buggies, anything outdoors I am in love with. My kids are little dirt balls. They absolutely, if they're inside, they're crying because they want to be outside playing and muddy and dirty as possible. And so that is where these geodes were fascinating to me. And I was very inspired by a lot of the other projects I saw you guys doing. And I decided to try to do my own take on it and make it as real as possible. The glitter ones are beautiful. I don't know, you can see some of my practice clips I did with the glitter. And ultimately, I just decided I wanted something more natural looking. And that's how I just kind of farted around inside Michael's one day and looked at their supplies and saw these broken glass, and I thought, well, that looks just like an amethyst. So it's kind of where I got the idea to do this. Just trying to make something that looks a little more like an actual stone. The glitter ones are absolutely gorgeous. Some of you do incredible glitter work. I am not there yet. So far, I'm better with this glass than I am with the glitter. My glitter cup came out a little goofy. Okay, so you can see here, it might be a little hard to see on the video, but that edge is much softer around. You can't even tell there's really a line from where the paint ends going into the stone. It's just softened up that edge just perfectly, okay? And this one is now ready for its final layer of epoxy. So for this portion of the video, you're probably gonna hear my kids and my husband in the background. My kids are being sung to by my nanny. She's very loud, but it's very cute. And my husband is detailing his car right on the other side of that garage door, so you can probably hear his little equipment. So I apologize for that, but I want to just keep rolling with this video so I can get it out to you guys as fast as I can. I'm going to show you the part of now the epoxy. So it does not, these cups don't fit on a football well. If you try to shove it on one of these dollar store footballs, it's most likely going to crack and break your glass because they don't fit. You got to really shove it, and I didn't have the guts enough to do it because I get this far on a cup and I don't want to break it. So what I did, this attaches right onto the end of this is my stick for my turner, so I can attach it on and off. So if I want to take something off and just dry it, I'll show you about that later. But this is how I've created, instead of a football, this has a foam noodle inside and then actually a beer koozie. I just kind of played with it and made it work. And there's a beer koozie over the top, 2 layers of fabric, and then rubber bands. This made it the perfect width to hold the wine glass. I put the rubber bands on because they're like rubber grippy tape. It holds the wine glass from falling, so it doesn't fall off in the night off the turner. That is so frustrating, and I know we've probably all had that happen. So this rubber bands is how I've solved that problem. It's I get these rubber bands off, again, the vegetables that I buy in the grocery store, and I just save them in my craft drawer for times when I need them. This was one of those times. So the cups just slide right on there. They're it's still a little firm to get on there, which you do want. That is going to help it not fall on turner. And you see I'm just kind of pushing it very gently, working it on there. Twist a little bit, get it on there, and it holds it perfect. Again, with the football, it takes a lot more shoving and pressing. So now this is on the turner rod and ready to be hooked onto the turner rod and hooked onto my turner. And I will come back, I will do that step and show you the epoxy method that I use. So we're at my turner over here. This is a turner I built myself. I'm just kind of handy and I figured it out. I just saw some of your guys' turners and videos and went for it. It's just a plank board I found outside. Skill sawed, 2x4, just a plank of wood that was in our scrap pile. Anchored my thing on. It's a lot easier than you guys think. And if you go to Home Depot and buy wood, they will cut it for you. And all you need is 3 pieces of wood, 1 flat and two to mount. Easy peasy. And you just gotta plug it in. So just if you ever want to attempt it yourself, go to Home Depot and have them cut you some wood. No big deal. So here we are. I've got my epoxy mixed and ready to go. I'm going to turn my turner on. I actually prefer my turner to turn towards me. So if it happens to turn on and be turning away, I just turn it off, turn it back on, and it starts turning towards me. What I do when I epoxy is I have my heat gun ready for the last process. It's plugged in and sitting here ready. I actually epoxy everything but the stones first. I do the smoother surfaces first because in the end I just basically almost flood the area with the stones to make sure it gets covered in there. I just kind of dip my finger. I know a lot of people pour it. I pour it too. Sometimes I pour, sometimes I dip. So I'll just dip my finger just because I don't want to get too much. And the first go around, I just make sure I get epoxy on it. I don't worry that everything's covered or everything is done. I just start dripping the epoxy on, working my way around, up and down, around the edge. When it's all slippery, that's how you know you've got good coverage. If your finger kind of tends to want to stick, that probably means there's not enough epoxy there and you're just rubbing the paint surface. So just kind of glide your fingers around until everything feels like it's slippery, and that means you got some epoxy on. I do a thin layer of epoxy. I prefer thin layers as opposed to thick, because the thicker they are, the heavier the cup. And I've already got a lot of weight on the cup with the rocks. Go around, put a little on the bottom. And now I've got the leftover epoxy. We're going to be coming up on, I can see a fuzz. We're going to be coming up on the stones, and then I just start and I drip it straight into the stones. And I pat. The reason I pat is to make sure the epoxy gets down inside those little cracks and crevices of each stone. And as it goes around, I just keep smoothing. I just keep smoothing, make sure I did, in fact, get it all the way to the rim, all the way to the bottom, and I wait for that to come around again. Looks like I'm going to have a little epoxy left. So we'll see. This is the second level of epoxy. The first one was before we hydro dipped. And there you go. It's as easy as that. So now you've got the epoxy on. I will actually, when I finish this video, I'm going to put that on another one and save it and use it for something else. Then you'll see from tapping, where you tapped on top of the stones, it's going to bubble because of the tapping. So that's when I use my heat gun, and I actually hit it with the heat gun, and it will pop all those bubbles and micro bubbles inside the epoxy on that portion of the cup. And I will wait for it to come around. Actually, I'll just quickly brush over it. The heat gun will pop any micro bubbles or bubbles. This was super cheap. I bought it on Amazon. Oh, no, actually, I think I bought it at Michael's, and I used my coupon to get it discounted. And the heat gun also, again, helps press the epoxy down into it. And that's it. And now this will turn. I will probably now let this turn until tomorrow, mainly because when I step away from this one, I won't get a chance to come back to it until tomorrow. So it will, and then I will remove it from here. I'll just unscrew it and screw it onto my drying rack. I'll put it on one of the places on this drying rack, and I'll let it sit for 72 hours. I do that so that it doesn't get any dents or dings or marks from just sitting down or getting banged by one of my kids on accident, and that way it can cure completely for 72 hours and be finished. And that is the last step of that epoxy. And here's 2 finished cups. These 2 are completely done. They've both been epoxied, and this should be vaguely what your finished product looks like. Of course, everyone's is going to be different. We all have our own unique style. Put your own spin on it. Do the colors you like and the style you like, and have fun creating, and good luck. Feel free to comment with any questions. I will try to answer as many as I can. But with triplets, it may be a little difficult, but I will do my best. So good luck. Happy crafting.